if the court cases to date have gotten pretty much zero traction, what is the end game for the president? Joining me now, Mary Trump, President Trump's niece, author of the best-selling book, Too Much and Never Enough, How My Family Created the World's Most Dangerous Man. Mary, it's good to see you. Thanks for being with us. Today, President Biden said, quote, "I am hopeful that the president will be mildly more enlightened before we get to January 20th. You're a psychologist as well as a family member. What is going on? I mean, before we say that, I'm of the mind that it doesn't really matter. He's leaving. January 20th is the date. He can be upset. He can be angry. He can, be stewing over his domineering father. All of that, but it doesn't matter. But it's nevertheless may affect what we actually have to live through for the next, 60 plus whatever days. So what do you think is going on?
Well, I agree with you. It doesn't matter if he concedes. It doesn't matter if he acts like an adult and allows for a smooth, peaceful transition. None of that matters in the sense that he lost. And President-elect Biden will be president come January 20th. But you're also right that it does matter in the sense that it delays the incoming administration's ability to deal with the multiple crises we're facing. It continues to undermine people's faith in the legitimacy of this election and the legitimacy of the incoming administration. But I would say that the only reason Donald's behavior is completely immature, unfounded, and disgraceful behavior matters is because it's Republican leadership is allowing it to matter. Mm-hmm. And that's really where we should focus.
Yeah, I mean, the coddling of him, the fear that still exists, there had been talk before the election of, well, there'll be some sort of a reckoning in the Republican Party once, if President Trump is gone. It doesn't seem like there may be any reckoning. I mean, it just seems like he's going to hang it over their heads that maybe he'll run again, and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio are going to be, screaming into their pillow, because their presidential ambitions will be thwarted or frustrated. But do you think, is it just animus on the president's part? Is it just, this is these are the cards of power he still holds, and he's going to hold on to them and figure out how to make the most of it? Or is it just, as Maggie Haberman often says, he's just living in increments of time, and he's in this increment of time, and he doesn't have a plan for the next increment of time. He's just kind of watching the show and seeing what happens?
It's actually a combination of both things. I think fundamentally it is what Maggie Haberman says. Donald lives in the moment. He needs to be, his arc is, did I just win? Am I winning now? Am I going to win right after this? And that never changes. I mean, it is an arc. It's an incredibly boring one, but it's consistent. So he is, for the first time in his life, grappling with a unique situation. He's never been in a situation in which he's lost and cannot buy his way out of it, so that is true. However, what we need to keep in mind is the animus you spoke of is being fueled by the fact that although he lost decisively to President-elect Biden, the Republican Party fared much better than expectations in this election. So you can't even blame them. Yeah. So there's a lot of rage and there's a lot of score settling going on, I would imagine.
It's so interesting, though. I mean, obviously the people now around the president are mostly kind of sycophants or scared of him or feed into what, or true believers, however you want to think of it. But, the idea that that Donnie Jr. and Eric Trump are saying, yeah, let's keep going. Obviously, I guess Donnie Jr. has, ambitions of taking over the GOP leadership. Sees this as his future. It doesn't seem like anyone is running the Trump Corporation. I don't know if there's not any work to be had, but they certainly seem to have a lot of time to be focused on this issue. How do you think this plays out? I mean, do you think at some point he even attends the inauguration? Do you think at some point he actually starts to release funds and allow there to be a transition? Because, I mean, people's lives are hanging in the balance on how the effectiveness of the vaccines and getting them circulated and people in hospitals right now.
Yeah, as for my cousins, they're very well aware that they depend on that everything comes from their father. They depend on him entirely, so they're going to do whatever they need to do to keep themselves in his good graces, no matter how bad it is for everybody else. So, what I feel at this point is that we need to ignore these people. And we need to place all of the pressure on Republican leadership because, as you said, the longer this goes on, the more dangerous it is in terms of our national security. I mean, who knows what's going on behind the scenes? Donald is a desperate man. He has access to all of our most guarded secrets. He's in a lot of debt. And, there's also COVID. We are in a situation where the leader of this country, or the ostensible leader of this country, I should say, because he seemed to have abdicated all responsibility, is willfully ignoring the greatest health crisis we've faced in over a century.
Yeah.
People are dying every day because Donald refuses to admit he was wrong and made a mistake. He's refusing to change course. We need to look at this in very blunt terms. This is criminally negligent homicide. And the longer the Republicans let this go on, the longer Donald is going to be pushing the envelope, and the more they need to be held accountable as well.
Mary Trump, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Anderson.
To Mary's point.